Hey, great to have you here. So back today with another Dragon Ball S.H Figuarts video, and today we're going to be talking about the results of the 40th anniversary poll that took place recently. If you're not aware, we previously had a poll that had a bunch of re-release options for figures that had in the past. They've done this previously with the 15th anniversary of S.H Figuarts line, but now they did it with the 40th anniversary of Dragon Ball and allowed folks to vote on a figure that they want to have re-released from the past. So I did a video talking about this as well, where I talked about saying, I don't know if they would do this, but it would be awesome if they broke the trend and said, you know what, let's give you the entire Ginyu Force instead of just giving us one figure that wins the poll. Well, they kind of did that, and they also kind of went the alternate route that I thought about they may go, in that they had two winners, actually, surprisingly. Apparently, they announced that the poll results were so close that they had to have two winners here. The first one being the original DBZ BROLY, which I know is a big grail for a lot of people. So a lot of people are going to be excited there. I know some people probably are criticizing that, hey, this is a 1.0 body, so old figure. But either way, even if we don't get a re-released version of BROLY in a new 3.0 mold, getting this version of BROLY is awesome for fans out there who have wanted this in their collection, but didn't want to ultimately pay, you know, whatever those prices are at this point for this guy, like $300 or whatever it is. And then on top of that, they announced we are also getting the cooler figure that a lot of people honestly say this is their favorite figure in their collection. The articulation, the aesthetic, it really hits all of the marks across the board. So great to see that for folks as well. I think people that were maybe disappointed to get this Z BROLY are at least excited to get that cooler inclusion as well. And we're going to run through some of the photos that we did get from Tamashii on this one. But just wanted to recap kind of the intent of this video. As mentioned, I was hoping the Ginyu Force, but if you recall in the video, I mentioned, hey, if it's not the large amount of people they're going to go with, I think cooler will win. And I think next up I did have BROLY. So they did wind up going with fan favorites that will probably, be a big selling point for a lot of these folks. So let's just jump right into the photos that we did get for them. So starting things off with the first one. So we have BROLY here with his standard look. And I'm probably not going to spend too much time on a lot of these images because if you have this figure already, you're aware what it looks like, or if you're just aware of the figure previously being released, there's not really new points to necessarily call out, but we're going to jump into a little bit of detail here. So we have him with his typical fists clenched here, yelling face, so really rage look for BROLY here. His proportions always look so goofy, but I get that's part of the design, the original design of BROLY and Z. And then on top of that, we have this little stand below him. So I mentioned this in that video as well, that they typically will include these little stands in these re-releases, but unfortunately they're not as great as I would have hoped for as far as the materials made. I know a while ago at an event exclusive, they did those little ceramic tiles. These ones aren't that. They're more like that plasticky feel, so they're pretty cheap material, even if they look cool. Like this one looks awesome, having the 40th anniversary logo there with the dragon, so cool look to it. It's not the strongest material, which I get because you don't want to be spending too much money on just the stand itself. So next up, looking at the photo, and they started to do these in the last few releases, which I really appreciate because a lot of times we get these action shots, and then we get the description that says, oh, it includes this, and you're like, I didn't see that in the shot. So this always will show us everything that they have in the actual box. So hoping this is the new trend as far as always having this shot of everything. The only downside here is sometimes there's something small off to the side that you can't really recognize what it is. Like I know the Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta had some bangs that weren't really clear in the image itself. So beyond that, I love getting these shots. So we have him just with his standard pose, with his stern neutral face, with his fist clenched. And then the accessories below him. So we have one of the smiling faces that probably is there. It's a little hard to see, as I mentioned. And then we have the screaming face that we saw. We have the open hands with the curled fingers. And then we have the open hands with the wide open palms as well. So some kind of combat hands as well as some blast hands. So great to see that. Then on the left side, we get three different ball attacks. So three different green attacks he has here. I'm not sure. Let me know down in the comments below why there would be three included here. I like having obviously more options, but are we going to be posing him with doing all three blasts kind of quick in, repeated order? Is that the point of having three of them here, or why are you giving us three? Curious to see information there. Did the prior release have three? I'm not really sure if I remember that. I think it may have had a green ball, but I don't remember if there's three or not. And then to the right of him, we have a stand, which is awesome because a lot of these figures that are really top heavy need stands, but we never have them included in the figures anymore these days. More often than not, you have to buy the stand separately. So great to see that included here. Then we see a great shot of the actual stand itself. As mentioned, it looks kind of like that clear plasticky type material. So not the best material it's made out of, but cool logo regardless there. Then we also have one of the little pegs for the stand as well that you can stick into the actual stand that will, hold up maybe his energy blast or something along those lines. So jumping into the next photos. So I combined 3 images here because we pretty much have the same photos for across the board for these, and since it is a re-release. First up, we have him just looking, straight on pose, nothing really to call out. Same pose in the middle there with just a view from the back, so just showing off Broly and his massive size. And then third there, we have him doing the yelling once again, so what we've seen already in the first image. And then next up, some good inclusions here. So we have him doing a smirking face on the left, so we can get a better shot of that, and then doing a blast attack with his hand. The middle shot is cool to include here. We have him grabbing Goku, a scene from the movies previously in Z, where he's just grabbing his face, and we have the stand holding up Goku there. So doing a pretty good job at hiding how Goku's being held up there. Then finally on the right, we have the ball blast attack that's being held up by the stand as well. So doesn't seem like this guy's going to have updated hands. Like the more modern hands will have those little pegs that you could put the blast attack in. Seems more like these are the old, just grippy, like combat hands that you're just putting the ball outside of and just making it look like he's doing the blast attack. So great shots from Broly. As mentioned, I know this is an older figure, and there's probably mixed opinions on if people actually need him or not, especially with, I think, third parties have recently put out their own versions of this guy. There's been speculation maybe that's why they included this as the winner, but I imagine fans really wanted this one regardless, so great to see that. And then next up, we only got 1 image here, so not much to talk about, but since this is a re-release, we kind of know what to expect here. We have the Final Form Cooler, which I talked about. This is a lot of people's favorite figure in their collection, so definitely a great opportunity to re-pick this guy up, and I'm sure we'll get more photos, but it's not really necessary at this point because we've gotten the photos, we've gotten the actual figure previously released. So cool stand here as well, not to make a pun there with cooler, but I like the little kind of purpley look to that stand. It really matches the aesthetic. Both these stands really match the coloring of the actual character themselves. So great image here. If we get more photos, I'll maybe do another video on it. Maybe I'll just do a community post, but this is a figure we know is a staple for a lot of people's collections. It's not one that I have personally, and it's one that I'm interested in picking up. So definitely encourage you to take a look at this guy in Broly when they ultimately get released. So then jumping into the details on release for both of these guys. So with the Broly, we actually don't have to wait too long to do the pre-order process because they've announced pre-orders will open January 24th. So opening up this week, and the scheduled release is going to be September of 25. We don't have any price points for either of these guys. I'm kind of expecting somewhere in the realm of $100 for both of them. I'm not sure where exactly that'll wind up falling, but I think Cooler, for example, I think it depends on what all they include, if they include a lot more additions beyond what we got previously, but I feel like $100 makes sense for both these guys. I could see them going up to like 110. It would be not great if they go up to 120, but that $100 roughly price point is what I expect for both of these figures. And then the announcement for Cooler as far as release. We don't have more photos at this point, and there's not a release window yet. They've announced that pre-orders will be scheduled sometime in February. So if we're following the same cycle as the Broly, I'd expect him to go up late February and potentially release sometime in October. So it'd be awesome to see both of these guys in a lot of people's collections. I think if you have typically people doing their top Dragon Ball figures in their collections, both of these guys are on the list somewhere. Cooler probably at the very top. Broly, at least for the shelf presence, near the top as well. So I personally, I'm not sure if I'll definitely pick them both up, but I feel pretty likely to pick them both up because, as mentioned, I don't have them in my collection. They're definitely staples to include if you want to have these great Z movie villains. So I guess that's maybe the tie-in, is that both of these characters are Z movie villains. Those characters, they always do a great job with, and it seems like they're really well received. These guys, the Turles, it feels like those figures, they need to be pushing more, like where's Janemba at this point, because the Z movie villains have the coolest aesthetic to them, it seems like, and they really execute on the articulation, and they're just great to include in your collection as far as really staples to have there. So what are your guys' thoughts? Are you going to pick up both these figures, or are you just grabbing one of them? Were you hoping for the Ginyu Force like me? But I think if it wasn't the Ginyu Force, these are the next 2 and 3 best options to me personally, so love to see that. Just let me know all your thoughts in the comments below on these 2 re-releases. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to talk to you again soon.